So when the first John Wick movie came out, I said, if this becomes a franchise, they're gonna have to pull a Star Wars and go, John Wick 1, John Wick kills people. John Wick 2, John Wick kills more people. John Wick 3, John Wick kills everyone. And now we're on John Wick 4, so it's like, is it John Wick finds more people to kill? Would that be the subtitle? Or John Wick pays a voodoo priest to bring them back to life so he can kill them a second time to add more gore? I don't know. I'm just asking questions. And when we're talking about questions, I don't remember if John Wick Chapter 1 had Chapter 1 in the title when it came out. It's been a while. Or if it was just something they inserted later, like how Star Wars became Star Wars Episode 4 A New Hope. But why does John Wick Chapter 3 have a subtitle and no other film in the series does? Like, it's John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum, but 4, 2, and 1 don't. I don't know. I'm just asking the questions here. Like, a question I have is, I don't know how this film got greenlit. Like, they really wanted to take a risk on this. And I mean, you might go, Arjun, what are you talking about? It's Keanu Reeves. He's like the biggest action movie star of all time. It's like this massive, consistently successful franchise. Yeah, but it's an independent movie. It's not a Marvel movie. It's not a Marvel movie. It's not cape shit. It's like a traditional action movie. Something that's not just like mediocre, whatever the fuck you want. I can't come up with anything for Marvel movies. Just the most focused group, low effort, maximum profit, make as much money as possible, shove it in audience faces. So, but they put it out. So, John Wick Chapter 4. Let's talk about the actual movie. Was it good? Was it bad? I'll say this. When you go to see a John Wick movie, it doesn't lie to you. You pay to watch Keanu Reeves kill hundreds of people in fascinating and artistically beautiful ways. You pay for that. You pay for cool shit. You pay for style. You pay for good music. And it delivers. It doesn't lie to you. It's not like some movie where they say like the title and nothing related to the premise like of the film actually happens. Like that piece of shit movie Gunless, where they have guns in the movie, so it wasn't actually gunless. But like they said, okay, we're gonna have John Wick kill people. Keanu Reeves is gonna be Keanu Reeves. We're gonna bring back the characters you liked from the previous movies. Have at it. And you know what? They fucking delivered. And this was good. I like this movie. Rating the John Wick movies or kind of ranking them is kind of hard, because the first one I feel is just thematically and stylistically pretty different. It feels more like something hard-boiled, maybe something more like Drive. And then the later ones I feel get a lot more campy and a lot more kind of like what Bond movies used to be like, or what like Matrix Reloaded is or something like that. Whereas the first one I think was very tonally different. The second one I think is the weakest. The second one isn't a bad movie by any means. It's just kind of in an awkward position where it's a setup for the main plot of the 4 films, John Wick Against the High Table. And just the hook in it doesn't really make sense. I think to me the biggest problem with these movies is John Wick really has no motivation. And that's something that I liked about this film. Is the main villain was just like, John, why are you even doing this? Why do you care about surviving? You want to get out, but if you get out, you're just going to get back in because there's nothing like... You're just a mass murderer. That's just who you are. You're a villain protagonist in a world where everybody's a massive piece of shit. You don't have any aspirations beyond being a hitman. So it's like, it kind of references it, and that's kind of my issue with these movies. And I'll get into why I liked it in a second, but what is John's motivation? Why are we rooting for him? Like, I guess because he's not as much of a sociopath as the people he's going up against. Like, he kills people, but everyone he kills kind of has it coming, or they're trying to kill him. Whereas, like, the other people, I guess, just kill more random people. Like, that's kind of the difference. And John doesn't normally cause collateral damage. But why are we supposed to cheer for him? Because he's like a villain who's killing people who are worse than him? But he's not doing it out of, like, any sort of make the world a better place. I'm gonna be the angel of judgment and just take down all the shit in the criminal underworld. He's not trying to get he's not trying to fight to get his wife back because she's already dead. And I feel like a strength of this film is it played with that a lot. Like, you had Kane, who is kind of like the counterpart of John Wick, and he was fighting for his daughter. The High Table basically made him one of their assassins, and they basically just threatened to kill his daughter whenever he doesn't want to do something. So in this movie, they threatened to kill his daughter if he doesn't kill John Wick, despite them being old friends. And on top of that, we also have he's eventually offered the opportunity to save his daughter, provided that he kills John Wick in a duel. So I kind of feel, and like the bad guy even points it out, he's like, look, I think Kane's gonna beat John because John has nothing to live for, nothing to die for, and nothing to kill for, whereas his opponent has all three things. Which, once again, I thought was kind of interesting, and they played around with it a bit. So, movie overall, I don't know where I'd put it in the series, because I feel like John Wick 1, even if it's not as good in some ways, it's at least like the most innovative and interesting and different by virtue of it being first. I'd say this one's maybe not quite as good as John Wick 3, but fairly close. I don't know. I give this like a 7.5 out of 10. It's a very solid action movie. They really know how to play to their strengths, having like these interesting, they're kind of like the artwork they always have in these is kind of a mixture of like neo-feudalist or something, maybe a bit like that, or some sort of kind of interesting mixture. There's like a cool part of the movie where they go to Japan, and they go to the Osaka Continental, and it's kind of this mixture of traditional Japanese and like cyberpunk stuff. And we get a really cool scene there where John Wick fights a bunch of High Table enforcers who are wearing like bulletproof Ashigaru armor with like goblin or tegu. I don't know if they're supposed to be Oni or Tegu or Tengu, not Tegu, or whatever masks, but they looked really cool. And you have people fighting with katanas and yumis, and that was all really cool. You have them fighting at this like industrial club with waterfalls. You have like this underground Orthodox church. There's just a lot. Oh, and then fighting outside of Sacré-Cœur. Just a lot of really cool set pieces, and a lot of really interesting kind of mixes, once again, of like traditional weaponry but with like a modern twist, and that sort of thing. So there's also like a big action scene that goes through Paris, the Arc de Triomphe. Overall, like, the action is, once again, does not disappoint. I think I liked some of the scenes in the third movie a bit more. But this was definitely solid. So, taking a step back, let's start maybe breaking this film down a bit more. So it starts immediately after the events of the second, of John Wick Chapter 3. So apparently the Elder has died between the events of the third and fourth movie. Whether that's because he died of old age, someone else killed him, that there isn't actually an Elder, it's just like whoever the High Table sends as their guy. Or maybe they killed him because of his incompetence and thinking that he could make John Wick into his errand boy. I don't know. But the old Elder's dead, the new Elder's in, John Wick kills him at the start of the movie. And then this triggers the High Table to give unlimited power to the Marquis, who is another one of these like LARPy criminal overlords who has a gang that dresses in a certain way. In his case, he's a Marquis. He's a French noble, and all his like footmen dresses like this. I don't know if you want to call it like is it like French posh maybe? And he has like hot women riding horses doing dances with swords, like fencing on horseback and stuff like that. So the High Table is just giving him total carte blanche. Do whatever you want. You have an unlimited amount of money. Just take down John Wick. And he starts off by that. He brings in Kane, who I mentioned earlier, who's an old friend of John's, who's like the only man who's as good an assassin as John Wick is. And he is blind, and he has a sword cane. And he's a lot of fun, because you can do a lot of creative action scenes with a guy who's blind. It's just they find a very different way. I haven't encountered that many blind people in real life, but it is interesting just how different the body language is. Like when you're not, because normally where you're looking like is of big significance, but if you're blind it doesn't really matter. So it's interesting just to see them looking off and like him looking in a different direction, or like firing his gun without like turning his head and stuff like that. Because I guess just it doesn't matter as much, but it is really interesting. I forget who the actor's name is, but he's familiar. The actor who plays him does a good job. So he's a retired assassin who they keep calling back to kill people for them who they can't kill through anyone else, as a result of them having his daughter basically being held hostage. So there's that. Winston gets the Continental taken away again, which kind of felt like, what was the point of the third movie if this was just going to happen again? So the Continental gets taken away. It gets blown up, actually. He goes to the Marquis, who basically humiliates him and kills Chiron. And that's Chiron, or Chiron, or however you want to pronounce his name. I think it's because the actor died. I'm not sure when they decided that they were going to kill his character off. If they were going to kill it off to give Winston a motivation for thematic reasons, or just because the actor's dead and they can't obviously use him in more movies without crappy CG. But him getting killed off was rough. Because he was a minor character, sure, but he was kind of the heart of the films. To a certain extent, he was just the guy who was always friendly, always helpful in everyone's mass murdering, drug dealing, underworld businesses. So Winston gets pulled into this. John Wick kills the elder. So the High Table's out for blood. They send the Marquis to go and, or the Marquis. I always say Marquis just because of the Marquis from Star Trek. But, yeah, so they send him to go start killing John Wick's friends. One of his friends is the manager of the Continental Hotel in Osaka. So he goes there. And John's there to try to get his help. As with everyone John asks for help, he completely fucks them over and ruins their lives. The High Table shows up with a ton of mercenaries. We get like a 20 to 30 minute awesome action scene where like guys with katanas and yumis and machine guns and all kinds of stuff fight. I do like how they kind of embrace the canonicity of the suit jackets being bulletproof, because it leads to a lot of kind of cool scenes, like where John's running around like trying to cover his face with his suit jacket, and it just kind of looks ridiculous. It's also just funny how many shots people can sometimes take before they get one that that finally works. So that place gets destroyed. His Japanese friend winds up getting killed by Kane. And we're kind of just going along. The villain I actually thought was really good, the Marquis. He's just super arrogant, super posh, super just thinks that he's ahead of everybody, that everybody's dumb, that he's the smartest man in the room. And he really is. He does kind of feel like the spoiled kid who's risen above his station and is trying to throw out the old generation, but is just kind of completely getting like felted by them. So I just liked him as a villain. I thought the scenes he were in were really good. I thought the actor did a really good job portraying the character. I thought he was probably the best main villain other than what's his name in the first movie? The Russian guy. I can't remember his name. But yeah, so that happens. Winston comes to John and says, you know, high table members can arrange duels between each other, and you can make whatever you want the conditions of the duel and whatever you want the prize of the duel. So he goes back to the Gypsy Russians in like an Orthodox church, and they agree to take him back if he kills the guy who killed their leader. So he goes and he fights this like German guy who's I think like 500 pounds or something. He's basically like the Kingpin, where he's this massive fat man, but he's also kind of a badass. So him and John have like another 20-minute long fight in this club, like with strobe lights and waterfalls and stuff. So that was pretty cool. So that happened, and then he gets taken back in by the Romana, and then that allows him to issue a challenge against the Marquis. So if John wins, he's free from all obligations, and Winston gets the Continental rebuilt. And if he loses, then he dies. So it's kind of just a win-win for John in that case. However, what's decided is it's going to be Pistols at Dawn at Sacre-Cœur. And he's going to be fighting Kane instead of the Marquis. So Marquis puts out this massive bounty on his head. I think it's $30-40 million. So literally every criminal in Paris tries to come in and take him down. None of it works. John gets there and is able to duel Kane. Something I was expecting to happen did happen. So they fire at each other, and if one of them, if they're both still standing, then they take 10 paces closer and fire again. And the last time they do it, John very clearly doesn't fire his pistol. The wound he takes doesn't immediately kill him, though. So the Marquis comes in, grabs the gun from Kane, and loads it to fire at John. However, John's been waiting for this and shoots him, allowing him to have won the duel, while also allowing Kane to be free of his obligations, and he can go spend time with his daughter. However, the most shocking thing in this movie is John Wick dies. John Wick dies. I kept expecting it to cut away and fake out or something, but the Bowery King and Winston bury him back in America. So John Wick's dead, but they're going to make a John Wick 3 of 5. So is it going to be a prequel? Is it going to be a mid-quel? Is it going to be John Wick didn't actually die? There's an after credits scene that I thought was going to be relevant, and it's the fucking longest credits I've ever seen. But that was just the daughter of the Japanese guy who died getting revenge on Kane when he was about to go see his daughter. So John Wick Chapter 4, this is the end. I think this is a satisfying conclusion of the franchise. I would have liked to see it maybe... I guess there's a couple ways they could have gone. I think they either could have maybe tried to end it in 3 movies, or they could have stretched it out a bit more and had John go serial killer style and just kill all the members of the High Table informally dissolve it. It kind of feels like they did a bit of a happy medium between the two, and the 4 movies is kind of an awkward number, especially if 4 is going to be the one you're going to finish on. Once again, though, this is John Wick, so maybe he's going to come back. Maybe something else is going to happen. Maybe there's going to be some sort of spin-off, but overall, I'd say pretty good movie. It's always good to see Keanu Reeves in action. Lots of fun. If you're just looking for a good turn your brain off action film, you can do a lot worse than this. And that's the review. God bless everybody, and I'll talk to you all real soon.